Okay, what I've stumbled upon today, I couldn't go to bed without sharing it with you, and this isn't going to be the best edited video I've ever made, all right, so don't shoot me, but I will do a more complete video on this if you are impressed, if you are as amazed by this as I am. Who remembers Melanie Sykes? Melanie Sykes is a model, TV presenter, radio presenter, very successful, very beautiful 52-year-old woman from Lancashire, right? And she, at age 52, has been diagnosed with autism. Those of you who will remember her from the Des and Mel show with Des O'Connor. Who remembers the Des and Mel show with Des O'Connor? Who was unemployed in the early 2000s or a teenager like me and skipping school? I remember Des and Mel. I remember, Easter holidays at my grandma's house watching Des O'Connor with Mel. Mel, she was an integral part of the Des and Mel show. She wasn't just a bit of eye candy for Des O'Connor to bounce off. God, no. She was a talented presenter, and here's the thing, she didn't seem autistic, right? This is the thing for me, right? And I know I'm going to get a load of comments saying, oh, you understand nothing, you're not a doctor. Well, I've watched a lot of YouTube, that's all I'm going to say, all right? I think I know my way around an autistic person. If any of you have had the privilege of dealing with autistic people in your life, and properly autistic people, not Melanie Sykes, you will know certain things about them. And one of the things is it's very unlikely that you're going to have a successful TV, radio, modeling career and be really well-dressed and presentable and bubbly personality, and then at 50 realize that you've got autism. It's unlikely, right? And I know you'll all be like, we're on a spectrum, it's not all black and white. Yes, it is, actually. It is all black and white, right? Autism, to me, is the woman in the US, I forget her name, you can look her up. There's a woman in the US who helped redesign abattoirs because she realized the cows, they couldn't go down a straight path because they were like, moo! And she could get into their mind. She was there like, moo! She also saw the straight path into the abattoir and was like, I wouldn't go down there. It's terrifying. Now that is autism, right? That is, to me, it's clear. If you can get into a cow's mind, you're a bit different from the rest of us, right? And she did some great work. She does some TED Talks. I wish I could remember her name. But as I say, it's very late and I'm not doing any research. Do it yourself, you lazy sausages. Autism to me is when this is my litmus test actually for autism when people say they're on the spectrum. I say, draw a fucking church. All right? Draw a church. Because I know that properly autistic people don't have archetypes. They don't understand archetypes, right? Which I don't mean the podcast by Meghan Markle. They probably wouldn't understand that either. Actually, maybe autistics would understand Meghan Markle's podcast, Archetypes, more than, non-autistic people, because non-autistic people don't understand it. Anyway, that's a funny joke. I'm sure if I edited it, it'd be hilarious. The point is, they don't get archetypes. You are in this living room like I am now, and you walk out, and suddenly you come back in, and the chair has moved a little bit, and you don't think, Jesus, the chair's, where the hell am I? But if you're severely autistic, you just think, different room. In fact, I'm using the exact same analogy that Jordan Peterson used. He said, different room. Right? When they come back in, that's what autistic people think. Melanie Sykes never did that. Can you imagine the overstimulation of presenting Des and Mel with the crowd baying for blood there every day. Des and Mel! Des and Mel! It was fucking crazy how successful that show was. You know, all of the unemployed crackheads sitting at home and kids skipping school like myself and my grandma, we'd be watching with bated breath, waiting for Des and Mel. We'd be hanging on there every word. Anyway, that's where Melanie Sykes' career peaked. No signs of autism in the early 2000s. I have to say, she didn't seem very autistic to me. And I don't know where she's on the spectrum, but if it is a spectrum, she's out there somewhere, right? Not, it's not visible. She ain't showing. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Now, that's probably why it's taken 50 years and her career in TV and radio to fizzle out, to go, oh, maybe I'm autistic and I can write a book about that. Anyway, not content with being autistic, Melanie Sykes self-identifies as having Tourette's 2 years after finding out she's autistic. Melanie Sykes says she has realised she is wired completely differently, in a completely different way. Now, I will play the podcast for you. If you're enjoying this video, I will do a properly edited, beautiful video about this, including the clips with the podcast. As I say, it's too late today. I need to gauge how much you're loving this. Okay, so give this likes. Subscribe to the channel. Show me how much you want me to talk about Melanie Sykes' autism. I'll read the rest of the article, though, to whet your appetite, right? And is that wet W-E-T or W-H-E-T? I don't know. Whet your appetite. I always used to think it was whet your appetite, like make you salivate. But it might be wet, making it sharper, like you wet a blade. Mightn't it? I don't know. Melanie Sykes says she believes she has Tourette syndrome. The 52-year-old TV and radio presenter, best known for hosting Today with Des and Mel and Let's Do Lunch. Does anyone remember that? I don't. Revealed in 2021 that she had been diagnosed with autism. You'll like her accent, by the way, if I do the properly edited version of this. Tell me, do you want to see this? Comment, say, we want Des and Mel. Tell me that you want to hear Melanie Sykes with a Lancashire drawl, talking about how she's got autism and Tourette's and all of these crazy things that she definitely has, right? Okay. She spoke to Alan Carr. Now, this is amazing. This is the next amazing thing about the podcast that you all want me to do a video about, don't you? Yes, Daniel, please do it. All right. Oh, you've twisted my arm, you crazy chickens. She spoke to Alan Carr. Alan Carr, do you remember Alan Carr, the chatty man? Right, his career's kind of fizzled out as well, hasn't it? Or has it? Because he's got a Spotify podcast now called Life's a Beach, where he talks about travelling to washed up celebrities, right? And if you don't know who Alan Carr is, there's a picture of him. And he talks like that, right? He became famous in the mid-2000s on a show called, what was that terrible contrived piece of shit trash Channel 4 chat show with his mate Justin, what was his fat mate who disappeared after allegations? Justin, fat lion man. I don't know, I'll put a picture of him there as well. So it was called The Friday Night Project. That's where Alan Carr became famous. And I've kind of lost touch with English culture. I don't know how famous he still is. But he's got a podcast called Life's a Beach on Spotify. Who hasn't got a podcast on Spotify now, eh? Anyway, that makes it even more amazing. I'm being harsh on Alan Carr. He seems like a nice guy. The only problem I have with Alan Carr is he was kind of a cliche when he became famous in the mid-2000s. It's like being a camp man. That could be your personality, like when Kenneth Williams did it in the 70s on the Carry On films. Yeah, oh, matron. That was novel. It was like, oh, whoa, is he? Oh, he couldn't be. You know, that's how my grandparents reacted to the Carry On films. I think he's one of those, you know, they were born in the 20s. And that was edgy. By 2005, Alan Carr, the chatty man, nobody cared, right? Nobody cared. It wasn't a personality. There were loads of gay people. It was fine. It was great. Graham Norton had been around for a decade when you came onto our screens. Alan Carr. All right. So don't you come at me with your big... well... Anyway, you would love to hear the clips from the actual podcast. That's all I'm saying. If you want a part 2 to this. Let's read a little bit more. She said, I'm wired completely different way, in a completely different way, and I'm only just understanding it. Fucking hell. She's selling a book, by the way. That's why she's saying all this about being autistic and having Tourette's. And that's not the only thing she says she's got. Who remembers Jamila Jamil on Archetypes with Munchausen syndrome or whatever she had? This woman is... I don't think it's that. I think it's like a lack of personality. It's like borderline personality or something like that she has. This incredibly beautiful, successful woman whose career's kind of fizzled out, as I've said several times, who's trying to sell a book, and her angle is, well, I've got autism and whatever, and Tourette's. I'll try not to swear, she says several times during the podcast. Anyway, she's trying to understand it. Where I used to think, what's wrong with me? Now I know it's everything that's right with me. Now, again, I don't think that that's what most autistics think. Unless you're really one of those mega talented savant autistics that redesign abattoirs, you know, or paint stuff. You know, those people. I'll tell you what, I'll whet your appetite a little bit more. There's some really good bits in the podcast. One of them's about flying and then realising she's terrified of flying, you know. See, autistic people already know that. We've seen Rain Man. We know how autistic people behave when they have to get on a flight. They start going, ah, don't they? All right, maybe they don't. Whatever. Some of them do. Dustin Hoffman did. I really, really recommend that you demand in the comments and show the algorithm how much you've enjoyed this video, and you demand of me a second part to this because it's really worth it. It's better than Archetypes. It's going to be the greatest thing you've ever seen. Trust me. All right? You want a proper video on this. This isn't enough. I haven't satiated I've whet your appetite. I haven't satiated it. All right? You're salivating, you mangy scavenger. Ugh, you make me sick. All right, thanks. I'll see you in the... Jesus Christ, I need to get a new lamp. Oh, that's broken. I'll see you in the next one.